The voice on the phone told me his name was John Smith from Microsoft support. He said my computer had a virus and he needed my bank details to save it. He thought I was just another gullible old man. He had no idea he had just called the person who spent 40 years building the very systems designed to hunt people like him. My name is Arthur. I'm 68 years old. And for the first time in my adult life, I was utterly, profoundly bored. After a 4-decade career as a lead cybersecurity engineer for a certain 3-letter government agency in Washington, D.C., retirement was a jarring silent shift. My life had been a high-stakes, invisible war, fought in the ones and zeros of the digital world. I had hunted cyber-terrorists, dismantled digital espionage rings, and built firewalls that protected national secrets. My job was to be a ghost, a silent guardian of a world most people never even knew existed. Now, my world was my small, quiet house in suburban Virginia. My days consisted of a rigid schedule of gardening, reading dense history books, and being patiently told by my visiting grandkids that, no, you can't rewind a live YouTube video. I had gone from a digital warrior to a technologically inept grandpa, or so everyone thought. But my new life of peace had been poisoned 3 months prior. I had gone to visit my oldest and dearest friend, a man named Henry I'd known since kindergarten. I found him sitting in a darkened living room, the shades drawn, a stack of unopened mail on the table beside him. He looked diminished. The vibrant, funny, life-of-the-party man I knew was gone, replaced by a hollow-eyed shell of himself. "They took it all, Artie," he whispered, his voice raspy, ashamed. He then recounted a story that was becoming tragically common. A phone call, a man with an Indian accent claiming to be from his bank's fraud department, a convincing lie about his account being compromised, a series of steps he was told to follow to secure his money by moving it to a new safe account. In the space of 3 hours, they had drained his entire retirement savings. Over $400,000, a lifetime of work, gone. "I feel so stupid," he said, his voice cracking, the shame radiating from him like a cold wave. "So old, so useless." I spent the afternoon with him, trying to offer what comfort I could, but the damage was done. It wasn't just the money. They had stolen his dignity, his trust in the world, his sense of self-worth. I left Henry's house that day with a fire in my gut, a professional rage I hadn't felt in years. These weren't just thieves. They were soul eaters, preying on the trust and fear of the most vulnerable. I had spent my life fighting digital monsters on a global scale. Now, the monsters were calling our homes directly. The ghost in me was restless. I never imagined my last hunt would come knocking on my own door. The call came on a quiet Tuesday morning. I was in the kitchen, enjoying a cup of coffee and reading the newspaper, the actual paper kind. The phone rang, an unknown number with a strange area code. I answered, expecting a telemarketer. "Hello? Hello. Am I speaking with Mr. Arthur Pendergast?" a young man's voice asked, thick with a heavy Indian accent, the sound of a bustling, noisy room in the background. "This is John Smith calling from the Microsoft Global Security Center in California. Sir, we are calling you today on an urgent matter. Our servers have detected a critical virus infection originating from your home computer." It was the exact same script they had used on Henry, just with a different company name. The same fake urgency, the same feigned authority. My first instinct was a flash of white-hot anger. I wanted to scream at him, to tell him about Henry, to tell him what kind of scum he was, to hang up. But then I heard the condescending tone in his voice, the way he was trying to manufacture panic. He thought I was an easy mark, another confused, frightened old man like my friend. And in that moment of profound anger, the restless ghost from the machine woke up. I made a decision. I wasn't going to hang up. I was going to play his game, and I was going to burn his entire operation to the ground. "Oh my goodness," I said, injecting a quavering, panicked tremor into my voice. "A virus? My banking information? Like what happened to my friend Henry? What do I do?" "Do not worry, sir," John said, his voice now a soothing, patronizing balm. "That is why I am here. I am a certified Microsoft technician, and I am here to help you. I just need you to get in front of your computer. Can you do that for me, sir? Yes, yes, of course, I said. I walked into my study, not to the old, slow laptop in the living room, but to my real workstation. A custom-built, 3-monitor setup that was my private little connection to the digital world I had left behind. Okay, I'm at my computer now, I said, my voice trembling with feigned incompetence. As he began walking me through the first steps of his scam, my fingers were flying across my own keyboard, initiating a series of diagnostic and tracing programs. While he was telling me to look for the any key, I was already isolating his VoIP signature and bouncing it off a satellite relay. He was using a cheap, unsecured voice-over IP service, routing his call through a series of proxy servers in an attempt to hide his location. It was amateur hour. For a man like me, breaking through it was like kicking down a cardboard door. Okay, sir, he said, I need you to open your internet browser and go to a website for me. It's called fastsupport.net. I knew the site. It was a legitimate remote access service, but one that was frequently abused by scammers to gain control of a victim's computer. Okay, I'm typing it in, I said slowly, pretending to peck at the keyboard one letter at a time. F-A-S-T. All the while, my trace was resolving on my other screen. The proxy servers were collapsing one by one. Netherlands, Germany, Singapore. And then, a hit. A specific IP block, registered to an internet service provider in Kolkata, India. I had his city. A crucial piece of the puzzle. The scammer thought he was leading me into his trap. He had no idea that I was the one mapping out his entire fortress, and I had just found the sewer grate he'd left unlocked. He gave me a 9-digit code to enter, which would grant him remote access to my machine. This was the key. Oh, I don't know, young man, I said, my voice full of doubt. My son told me never to give anyone access to my computer. Sir, he said, his voice hardening, do you want to lose all your money, like your friend Henry? The hackers are in your system right now. We must act immediately. He was good, using the very fear he had created as a weapon. Okay, you're right, I said, pretending to relent. I was ready to let him in, not into my system, but into his cage. I didn't enter his code into my real computer, of course. I typed it into a virtual machine, a sandbox digital environment I had created on my server. A perfect decoy that looked and felt like a normal Windows desktop, but was completely isolated from my actual system. It was a digital prison, and he was about to willingly walk right into it. Okay, the code is in, I said. Excellent, sir, he replied. I am now connecting to your system. Please do not touch your mouse or keyboard. I watched on one of my monitors as his cursor appeared on my virtual desktop. He was in. He immediately opened a command prompt and started typing in a series of commands that produced lines of scary-looking but ultimately meaningless text. A digital light show designed to terrify the victim into submission. Oh my God, sir, he said, his voice filled with fake horror. It is much worse than we thought. The virus has corrupted your main security kernel. The hackers have installed a keylogger. They can see everything you type. It was all nonsense, but it was a script he had probably run 1,000 times. He was so confident, so arrogant in his routine, that he wasn't paying attention. He didn't notice the tiny, almost invisible packet sniffer I had embedded in the virtual machine's code. A digital tripwire that was now actively sending me data about his system. His connection to my virtual machine was a two-way street. A digital tether that I was now using to crawl back up the rope and into his system. He had opened a door for me, and I was quietly, methodically, walking through it. I bypassed his system's rudimentary firewall in less than 30 seconds. And then, I was in. I had access to the main server of his call center. It was a treasure trove of digital filth. I could see the call logs, the lists of potential victims, thousands of names, mostly elderly people in the US, Canada, and the UK, complete with notes about their perceived vulnerabilities. Confused, leaves alone, recently widowed. It was disgusting. I saw their internal employee chat, a stream of crude jokes and boasts about their latest successful scams. One of them, whose username was CyberKing, had just posted, "Just hooked another old fish in Virginia. This one is a real whale." My blood boiled. I found their financial hub, a series of cryptocurrency wallets where they stored their stolen money. It was a mid-sized operation, pulling in what I estimated to be several $1 million a year. A factory of fraud, preying on the most vulnerable. Suddenly, a new message popped up in the chat from John. "My scammer, CyberKing. This old man is a bit slow," he wrote, "but I think he's convinced. Should be a good payday." I was now in a deep rage. This wasn't a game anymore. This was for Henry. This was for every name on that list. These people weren't just thieves. They were parasites, destroying the lives and life savings of innocent people. My final project was no longer about entertainment. It was about extermination. "Sir," the scammer said, his voice snapping me back to our conversation. A hint of impatience in his tone. "Are you there, sir? I have managed to quarantine the virus, but we must act quickly." "Oh, I'm here," I said. "I'm sorry, I was just noticing. You are typing very fast, young man. It sounds like you are in a very busy office." There was a beat of silence, a moment of potential suspicion. I had to cover. "It must be very stressful, working at the Microsoft Global Security Center," I added quickly, "with all those viruses." He seemed to relax. "Yes, sir," he said proudly. "It is a very important job. We protect people like you." The irony was breathtaking. While he was posturing, I was burrowing deeper. I located the physical address of the call center, cross-referencing their ISP data with municipal records. Badhannagar, Sector V. I had him. I had everything. His name, his location, his entire digital life. It was time to spring the trap. "Sir," the scammer said, moving in for the kill. "To remove the virus and protect your bank accounts, you will need to purchase a new Microsoft security license. The cost is $500. I will need your credit card information." I let out a long, weary sigh. I was done playing the victim. "You know, John," I said, my voice suddenly changing. The quavering, elderly tremor was gone, replaced by the calm, authoritative tone of a man who had been in charge his entire life. "John, or should I say, CyberKing." The silence on the other end was electric. Absolute. "I'm sorry," he finally stammered, his accent suddenly much thicker. "I do not understand." "Oh, I think you do," I said calmly. "I've been looking at your system here, and your security is a real mess. For example, you're routing your primary Bitcoin wallet through an unencrypted node. That's just sloppy." I could hear the sound of his breath catching in his throat. Who is this?" he whispered, the fake name and bravado gone. "My name is Arthur," I said. "And for the past 40 years, my job was to find people like you. So, let's talk about what's happening right now. As we've been speaking, I've been downloading your entire victim list, your employee records, and your call logs. I'm sending a copy of that package to a dear old friend of mine at Interpol and another to the Cybercrime Division in Kolkata. I have the exact physical address of your call center, by the way. Nice view of the Salt Lake." I could hear a strangled gasp on the other end of the line, the sound of panicked shouting in the background as he relayed what was happening. "Now," I continued, my fingers dancing across the keyboard, "about the money you've stolen, the money you took from my friend Henry, and countless others. I'm looking at your primary Bitcoin wallet right now. You really should have used a multi-signature wallet. This is just amateur." He started screaming then, a string of panicked curses in Hindi. "What are you doing? Stop. That's not your money. That's a matter of perspective, isn't it?" I said, initiating the transfer. "I'd say it belongs to the thousands of grandparents you've robbed over the years. I'll be sure to donate it to a charity for the victims of cybercrime. Consider it a parting gift." The last thing I heard before I hung up was a primal scream of pure impotent rage as he watched his entire criminal enterprise evaporate in real time. I leaned back in my chair, the silence of my study a welcome comfort. A week later, my grandson sent me a link to a small article on an international news site. Major tech support scam ring busted in Kolkata. It read. The article mentioned an anonymous tip that had provided authorities with a treasure trove of data, leading to over 50 arrests. I smiled, closed the laptop, and went outside to tend to my roses. The ghost was back in retirement. The next day, I made a single, anonymous wire transfer from an offshore account. The full amount that had been stolen from my friend Henry, plus a little extra for his troubles, with a note that said, "From an old friend who believes in justice." The rest of the crypto, a considerable sum, I donated to a foundation that helps elderly victims of online fraud. The game was over. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a profound sense of peace. A quiet, satisfying hum of a puzzle solved, a wrong righted, and a monster put back in its cage. Many people would think I did wrong for taking the money and giving it to the rightful owners. But I know within myself that I did something right. What do you think about what I did and how I did it? Is there a way to have people who are solely based on helping the elderly protect their funds from these scammers? If you have any idea, tell us in the comments.